Now, I'm going to have to point out a couple of things specifically about this asiento. First, the wording. We have to remember to understand these things in contemporary language of the time because they were very specific. So Britain is given a monopoly of trading Negro piezas de India slaves into the Spanish West Indian holdings for 30 years. I'll explain that to y'all in a minute. This cemented the British in not just the slave trade, but the overseas trade period. Because remember, the Spanish were there first, then you had the Dutch, the French, and all these other players. The English were late in the game. This is why it's hard to understand Indian history or history of the slave trade or American history at all when all you have is 13 colony history. This is what I find interesting. Now, once again, this is a side piece, but I figured I'll put it up front for you guys. Here's a math on it. Great Britain was tasked with bringing in 4,008 Negroes each year for 30 years for a grand total of 144,000. Only 144,000 gonna get home, huh? Now, I thought long and hard about mentioning this because it's definitely kind of off topic, but yes, this is that number from Revelations 14. This is what you call a self-fulfilling prophecy. Of course, the Catholic and Christian kingdoms who wrote and signed this asiento were aware of Revelations. Yes, they did this on purpose. Unfortunately, in reality, they fell short of this number. Now, one thing that does belong in this conversation is look exactly what it says. It does not say Africans. It says Negros, piezas de India. It says it twice. Negros, piezas de India. Of course, it's demeaning. It commoditizes human beings. But the reality is they're describing Indians, not Africans. So in this 30-year slave trade, we have to know how they're using this term. I'm going to say it again. Negro piezas de India. Over and over again. They're using this phrase, and they'll sometimes use the word black, but there is no mention of Africans in this asiento. There's no way around it. They're talking about black Indians paid for at the rate of 33 1/3 pieces of 8 escudos, which was the money in the Spanish Empire of the time. Now, I could hammer it in. Keep in mind, I'm literally just reading this document page for page, not cherry picking. You know how people go from page 5 to page 57. So in the next paragraphs, it's describing where these Negro piezas de Indias will be sold by this Christian majesty. These Negroes are being transported and sold in Spanish ports. Which are these? As you see listed here, we have the ports of the Indies, being that without them, they have suffered great hardships, as they say. Basically, they're saying they couldn't do it without the Indians. So all the ports of the North Sea. Here's a map of the North Sea. That's the United Kingdom right there. So let me pause for a second. So now you have Negros, piezas de India, being transported to British holdings. So yes, these are American Indians being shipped to Britain in the 1700s. Then you have Buenos Aires. If you don't know, that's Brazil. We're talking about Santa Marta, Colombia, Maracaibo, Venezuela, Cubana, Venezuela, New Spain, and Tierra Firma. Once again, you have to speak in the proper terms. And if you look, Tierra Firma was defined as Spain's insular colonies. And just to remind and show you, in the 1700s, this was New Spain. This was New Spain that they're talking about. So when we talk about how the DNA of all